All right, I want to talk about this situation down in Houston where 264,000 cases were suspended due to staffing issues. The police chief has put in his retirement, and I want to see what he has to say about this. This is a big deal. Let's check it out. We're going to watch some video, then we'll get into an article about it.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight at 10 o'clock. I'm Daniela Guzman. Keith is on assignment. We begin with an email tonight from 2018 indicating Houston Police Chief Troy Finner knew about the use of the code to suspend criminal cases because of the lack of personnel. Now, the chief talking with KPRC2 investigates Mario Diaz about that email, saying, quote, "It's been taken out of context."
It's something that I didn't know about, and I definitely didn't remember that.
A spirited HPD Chief Troy Finner making his position clear about this 2018 email involving the now infamous suspended lack of personnel code. The focus, a vehicular crimes case involving Houston Police Department leadership. And that's where we find Chief Finner looped in. Now, why is this email from 6 years ago significant? Well, for that answer, we go to this past February, when Chief Finner spoke to Houstonians for the first time about thousands of adult sex crimes investigations being suspended over manpower issues.
In November of 2021 was the first time I ever heard of a case management system code labeled as suspended lack of personnel.
That was February. Fast forward to today and the email from years earlier.
I've said how sophisticated Houston is. So to try that to that, like, you know, I'm being untruthful or something like that, it's not going to work.
Chief, you're right. Houstonians are sophisticated. And they're going to look at your comments from February of this year, in which you told Houstonians, I have never heard of this code until November of 2021. And those sophisticated Houstonians will be seeing you responding to an email involving this code 3 years before that.
It is what it is.
Bottom line for Chief Finner?
It's taken out of context.
Finner says it's out of context because at the time he was the executive assistant chief over patrol, and he did not have a full understanding of what was going on, even though he was Chief Art Acevedo's right-hand man.
Why would I, as executive assistant chief over patrol, I don't know anything about the coding process then. So that term means nothing to me at the time.
Chief Finner adds,
now, if I go back and look at all your emails.
I mean, look, I'm not going to say he's lying or not. Maybe he didn't know what that meant back then because he was over patrol and not investigations. But like this says, he was also the chief at the time. He was the chief's right-hand man. Maybe he didn't know what the coding meant. He wasn't doing certain things that he's doing now as police chief, like investigations. He was over patrol. I don't know.
You know, over a 10-year period or whatever the period is, do you think that you will leave something out? Do you think that there's any intent? There is untruthfulness, and there's intent. Okay. Did anybody was trying to perceive or represent anything? No.
Chief Finner sent out a statement this evening telling Houstonians this email is part of the investigation being conducted by HPD Internal Affairs. He also adds that since he had no recollection of the email, it serves as further proof that his department's investigation is independent. Now, Daniela, we of course will have more on this case as developments do come out into the light here in the near future.
I want to ask you, Mario, I know that Mayor John Whitmire has been watching this closely as part of the investigation as well. What does he have to say about this?
Well, the mayor's team told us today that he is not commenting on this new development. We'll see what the mayor has to say about the discrepancy involving Chief Finner, what he has told Houstonians, and what we're also seeing with regards to this email tomorrow following Houston City Council. We'll be there.
All right, Mario, thank you. We know we'll stay on top of.
And this is what Troy Finner had to say about this in his statement. I have always been truthful and have never set out to mislead anyone about anything, including this investigation. Until I was shown the email today, I had no recollection of it. I have since been informed it was already included in the internal investigation. I promise an independent and thorough investigation, and my lack of knowledge of these emails serves as my proof of independence. Even though the phrase suspended lack of personnel was included in the 2018 email, there was nothing that had alerted me to its existence as a code or how it was applied within the department. I was copied on this email to the chief of police concerning a vehicular crimes road rage investigation that was promptly investigated. At the time, I was the executive assistant chief over patrol operations. I forwarded the email to the commander saying it was unacceptable and make sure the case was properly investigated. I remain committed to proving as full an investigation of the internal investigation as legally allowed once it is complete. I will address the media and the public at that time. Okay. And this is what Houston, the police union had to say about this. Let's check this out.
Email reveals Finner.
It's not going to work.
The chief also said he was over patrol, not investigating his union about the email.
I'm not going to put out there that he's lying, but he's definitely disingenuous in the facts of the case.
Union President Douglas Griffith says it's time for Chief Finner to be scrutinized by HPD Internal Affairs, just as many of his members have.
How can you sit there and preach that other people should be held accountable when you're not holding yourself accountable?
And Griffith adds that Finner could have and should have done more back in 2018, but as we know, ultimately, more than 250,000 cases were shelved under this controversial code.
Jeremy, curious what Mayor Whitmire had to say.
Yeah, we are too. We reached out to the mayor's office.
That's a lot of cases. Look, the guy is right from the Houston police union. He's not saying he's lying, but he also needs to hold himself accountable for what happened. Now, we're going to get into the 264,000 cases right here. Not all of them, so that would take, yeah. But this is from the Associated Press. Houston's police, this is from March 7, 2024. Houston's police chief pledged on Thursday to restore public trust in his department following revelations that more than 264,000 cases, including over 4,000 involving sexual assault, were dropped in the past 8 years due to lack of personnel. That's a lot of sexual assault cases that went unsolved at the time or that weren't being investigated. That's a big deal. Imagine what the victims were going through with their cases being shelved like that. Last month, Troy Finner announced that hundreds of thousands of incident reports, including for sexual assaults and property crimes, were never submitted for investigation as officers assigned him to an internal code that cited a lack of available personnel. The figure represents about 10% of the 2.8 million incident reports filed in the past 8 years. I apologize to the victims, their families, our citizens, for the use of code for sexual assault incidents and other violent crimes against persons, Finner said at a press conference. This is not the trauma-informed, victim-centric services they deserve. This code should have never been used and will never be used again. Finner's news conference took place a day after Mayor John Whitmire announced that he will appoint an independent panel to review police handling of the dropped cases, saying that the public wants answers and accountability. How can something like that, the code, exist? I'm shocked by it. It's unacceptable, Whitmire said. And he's a new mayor in Houston, so maybe some things are coming out, and he wants to hold people accountable. The internal code, part of the department's record management system, was created in 2016, years before Finner became chief in April 2021. It was used in the two administrations that preceded his. Finner said he first found out that officers were using the code in November 2021 and gave it an order to stop. But then he learned on February 7th of this year that it was still being used to dismiss a significant number of adult sexual assault cases. Unbelievable. An internal affairs investigation is reviewing why the order to stop using the code was not followed and how the code's first came about. 2 assistant chiefs have already been demoted over their roles in this matter, citing the ongoing investigation. Finner declined to comment on whether more personnel could face disciplinary action. He said his department's top priority was reaching out to the people who filed the more than 4,000 sexual assault cases that were suspended. At least 32 officers have been assigned to review those cases, contact people, and follow up interviews. Okay, that's good. More than 3,000 of the cases have been reviewed so far, and the 133 victim interviews were scheduled. Police have also been working to contact people who filed family violence incident reports. Also suspended were 109,000 reports filed with the Major Assault Division and 91 in property and financial crimes, and 6,500 reports filed with the Homicide Division were dismissed. But most of those were related to claims of assaults and threats, Finner said. Police departments around the country are facing increasingly urgent staffing crises as many young officers resign, older officers retire, and applications to fill the vacancies plummet, according to an August report by a police executive research firm. Houston is no exception. Finner said the department, which has about 5,200 officers, needs 2,000 more to be sufficiently staffed. Still added, that's not an excuse for the dismissal of hundreds of thousands of cases. What has happened since 2016 is not acceptable. HPD is a department, as the department owns it, and I am committed as its chief to making sure we fix. Okay, so in this statement, he did say the HPD owns what happened, as they should. Now, 2 people have been demoted to this situation that's going on, but look, I can't really give my opinion on this. I can, but I'm not going to give my full analysis on this because the investigation is still going on. I don't know what happened, what the reason was for this happening, who created that code, why it was still being used, if the police chief is being truthful about his knowledge of what the code means. He was over patrol. This was investigations, but he was also the right-hand man of the chief. So I do not know exactly what happened, as there is an investigation going on. There'll be lots of digging going on, lots of questioning, lots of reviewing into this matter, and I'm glad that and look, my question is, if this never happened, if this thing never came to light, would there have been all of these interviews set up with victims, and would they have just continued to be shelved? But I don't know. We'll find that out with the investigation. But it's sad that 4,000 cases were, shelved, like I said. And it's sad because Houston is a big city, lots of crime there. They need to do as much as they can to fill these positions. And they've done some things like giving raises, raising the pay, things like that to recruit more officers. But a lot of crime down there in Houston. Have to clean this up. And I'm glad they have a new mayor. This guy, he's a Democrat, but apparently he's not a radical leftist, and he looks like he's taking this he's taking this very seriously. He beat the brakes off of what's her name, that black lady, the House member. I forgot her name, but the lunatic. Yeah, she ran for mayor and got clobbered by this guy, this new mayor there. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks and months with the investigation. And I don't know if this guy is going to be held accountable or not. Who knows if they told him to retire? Go on, take a retirement. This is not going to look good for you, and it doesn't look good. No matter what happened, it does not look good on anybody. If 264,000 cases were not investigated, and you were on the email. Bottom line, he was on that email with that lack of personnel coding on there, and he claims he didn't know what that meant. He didn't have a full understanding. Is it like any other job where you're in one position, but then you don't have a full understanding of what certain things mean in other positions, and when you move to that department, then you learn about it? I don't know, but we'll see what happens. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. See you next time. Thank you. Take care.